All right, let's jump right into this because there's a major conversation happening right now around Social Security and supplemental security income, and it's something that could impact millions of people across the United States. We're talking about the possibility of SSI benefits effectively skyrocketing by as much as 33.8%. And if that sounds like a massive number, that's because it is. But before anyone jumps to conclusions or gets confused by headlines, let's slow this down and walk through exactly what this means, who it applies to, where this number comes from, and why it's getting so much attention right now. And I want to be very clear right from the beginning. What we're discussing here specifically relates to Supplemental Security Income, or SSI, administered by the Social Security Administration. This is not about retirement benefits, not SSDI, not survivor benefits, and not any other program that may be discussed on this channel from time to time. This conversation is strictly about SSI. Now, if you followed discussions around this program for any length of time, you've probably heard a similar theme repeated again and again. SSI is an incredibly important program. It serves as a financial lifeline for millions of Americans, including seniors, individuals with disabilities, and people with limited financial resources, helping them maintain at least some degree of stability. But here's the issue that continues to surface. While the program is essential, there's growing recognition among analysts, advocates, and policymakers that benefit levels may not have kept pace with the realities of modern living costs. And that gap between intended support and real-world expenses is exactly where this 33.8% figure enters the discussion. So let's unpack why this number keeps coming up. SSI was originally created decades ago as an anti-poverty initiative. The concept was straightforward. Provide a baseline income floor so individuals facing age-related or disability-related challenges wouldn't fall below minimum economic standards. In theory, it was meant to prevent poverty, not merely respond to it. However, over the years, the economic landscape has evolved dramatically. Housing costs increased. Healthcare expenses rose. Transportation, food, utilities, and everyday essentials became more expensive. Inflation reshaped purchasing power, and even modest price increases compounded over decades can lead to significant changes in affordability. Yes, SSI recipients receive annual cost of living adjustments, COLA. These adjustments are intended to account for inflation and preserve purchasing power. But many experts argue that COLA calculations do not fully capture the lived experience of beneficiaries, particularly those whose spending patterns differ from general consumer averages. In other words, even though adjustments happen each year, they may not always reflect the true rise in costs faced by SSI recipients. So when economists and policy researchers compare current benefit levels against federal poverty thresholds or broader economic benchmarks, they often identify a gap, sometimes a sizable one. And based on those comparisons, calculations indicate that benefits would need to rise by roughly one-third, about 33.8%, to align with certain standards tied to poverty guidelines. Now let's pause here for an important clarification. This does not mean benefits have already increased by that amount. It does not mean checks automatically jumped overnight. What it means is that this percentage reflects an analytical estimate, a benchmark used in policy discussions about adequacy and alignment with economic thresholds. Understanding that distinction is crucial. Now let's walk through some simplified math to visualize the scale of this conversation. An individual receiving the maximum federal SSI payment currently receives just under $1,000 per month. When you annualize that, it totals slightly below $12,000 per year. Compare that with federal poverty guideline levels for a single-person household, and the gap becomes evident. Bridging that difference would require several hundred additional dollars per month, which is how analysts arrive at the approximate 33.8% adjustment estimate. And let's put this into human terms for a moment. An increase of that size isn't just a number on paper. For many recipients, that could translate into greater food security throughout the month, improved ability to keep up with rent or housing contributions, relief from choosing between medications and utilities, better access to transportation or mobility needs, or simply reduced financial stress and uncertainty for households operating on extremely tight budgets. Even incremental changes can carry meaningful impact. Another angle worth discussing is purchasing power, something that doesn't always receive enough attention in headline coverage. Over the past several years, inflation trends have affected everyday expenses in noticeable ways. Even small percentage differences between official adjustments and real price changes accumulate over time. When those differences compound year after year, across decades, they can create significant divergence between intended support levels and actual financial realities. This is part of the broader economic context behind headlines referencing benefits potentially skyrocketing. It's less about a sudden event and more about ongoing evaluation, a reassessment of how programs adapt to changing conditions. Now let's talk about awareness. SSI often doesn't dominate mainstream public discussion compared to other federal programs, partly because it serves a targeted population. Yet millions rely on it nationwide. Policy conversations that affect this program therefore carry wide-reaching implications for households, communities, healthcare systems, and local economies. When figures like 33.8% enter the conversation, they naturally spark attention because they highlight structural questions about adequacy, sustainability, and program design. And those conversations matter. Public understanding influences dialogue among stakeholders. Stakeholder dialogue shapes policy proposals, and proposals, over time, can shape outcomes. That doesn't mean change happens overnight. Far from it. Adjustments to federal benefit structures require legislative review, budget evaluation, administrative planning, and implementation timelines. These processes involve multiple stages and competing priorities. But discussion itself plays a role in shaping future direction. Let's also address expectations realistically. Whenever large numbers circulate online or in media, it's important to distinguish between policy advocacy, analytical modeling, legislative proposals, official enacted changes. Only the last category results in direct payment adjustments. Everything else represents stages of conversation and evaluation. Maintaining that clarity helps prevent misunderstanding and keeps discussions grounded in facts rather than assumptions. At its core, this entire debate centers on a fundamental question: how should safety net programs evolve as economic realities shift? Balancing fiscal responsibility with adequate support is not a simple calculation. It involves ethical considerations, demographic trends, economic forecasting, and long-term sustainability planning. And SSI, by design, sits directly within that balance. As cost structures change and population needs evolve, periodic reassessment becomes inevitable. So when you hear that benefits could skyrocket by 33.8%, interpret it as part of a broader national conversation, one examining whether current support levels match intended program goals and contemporary living conditions. Before we wrap up, I want to take just a moment to talk directly to you, because conversations like this only matter if people stay informed and involved. Programs like SSI affect millions of lives, and awareness is one of the most powerful tools anyone can have. When you understand how these systems work, you're in a better position to make decisions, ask questions, and stay prepared for potential changes down the road. So if you found value in this breakdown today, if it helped clarify the numbers, the context, or the bigger picture, I'd encourage you to stay connected with this channel. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss future updates. We're constantly tracking developments, analyzing policy discussions, and simplifying complicated information so it's easier to understand and apply. Also, don't keep this information to yourself. Take a second to share this video with friends, family members, or anyone who may rely on SSI or simply wants to stay informed. You never know who might benefit from having clearer insight into these topics. Sharing helps expand the conversation and ensures more people have access to useful information. And I'd really like to hear from you. Your perspective matters. Drop a comment below and tell me what you think about the issues we discussed today. Do you believe benefits should increase more aggressively? Do current adjustments feel sufficient? Or are there other concerns you think deserve more attention? Your feedback not only fuels discussion, it also helps guide future content here on the channel. Now I want to turn this over to you. If benefit levels were adjusted upward significantly, whether gradually or through major reform, how would that affect your perspective? Would it ease financial pressure? Would it alter long-term planning? Or do you believe current adjustment mechanisms already strike the right balance? Share your thoughts below. I read your comments, and they play a real role in shaping future content and discussions here on the channel. And if you found this breakdown useful, consider subscribing, sharing the video, and staying connected. We continue following updates, discussions, and developments related to Social Security and SSI so you can remain informed and prepared as conversations evolve. Thanks for spending time here today, and I'll see you in the next update.